You see they're dry. You see there's no marrow in the bone. You see they're scattered all over the valley. They ain't even full skeletons. I mean, the bones are scattered all over the valley. They're just bones. But answer me a question, Ezekiel. Can these bones live? Ezekiel answers the only way he knows how to answer. Lord, you know. Critical race theory was born out of critical legal theory. Am I teaching y'all something today? There emerged two common beliefs linking all critical race theories. First, white supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's just a fact. How in the world are you going to fight against that being taught in any school? White supremacy has subordinated black people and other people of color. That's a fact. Why don't you want that to be taught in school? You let your schools teach us that Columbus discovered America. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that George Washington couldn't tell a lie. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that some slave owners were beneficent and good slave owners. There were no good slave owners. Anybody who owned people was evil. That's a lie. You let your schools teach us that Abraham Lincoln was good for Negroes. No, Abraham Lincoln was trying to save the Union. And Abe Lincoln himself said if he could save the Union and keep black people in chains, he would do it. That's a lie. Come on, somebody. You let them teach us about a white Jesus. You let them teach us that Native Americans were the aggressors. Come on, somebody. That white folk had a manifest destiny and that the pilgrims were good and Native Americans. That's a lie. All day, every day, you let them teach us lies. All throughout my history in school, I was taught lies. But you got a problem with critical race theory because it teaches the truth that white supremacy has subordinated black people and people of color. The right to bear arms. Let me just back up a little bit and let me take you on back to the late 1960s when Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. And they were oppressing black folk, and a group of men and women known as the Black Panther Party decided that they were going to defend the rights of black folk. And the Black Panthers decided that the Second Amendment wasn't just for white folk. So they strapped themselves with guns and showed up at the Capitol in California. And when they saw them Negroes with guns, come on, somebody. That's why I say if you ever really want to get gun laws changed, just strap all these Negroes up. They'll change them laws before the week is over. When the Black Panthers, watch this, I want you to read, the California legislator passed what was called the Mulford Act. It was a gun control act that decided who could get guns, who couldn't get guns, what could be in your background, what couldn't be in your background. It was the first time in history that the National Rifle Association, the NRA, supported restrictive gun legislation, all because black folk had the nerve to get strapped. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, go get strapped. Amen, somebody. Y'all gonna say Bishop told us to get strapped. I said it. Go get strapped. It just got real quiet up in here. But y'all already know I'm a triple P. Amen. Y'all know what a triple P is, right? A pistol packing preacher. Amen, somebody.
Thank you, Jesus.
to go back to Lodabar. Your work's not done just because you made it to the palace. Bless the name of the Lord. But you've got a responsibility to help somebody else make it across. Thank you, Jesus. Don't pull up the ladder because you climbed to the top. Don't blow up the bridge because you made your way across. Thank you, Jesus. But reach your hand back down the ladder and pull somebody else up out of Lodabar. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Gotta tell themselves it's all right if you got it now, just hold it for me. I'll be there to get it after a while. Oh, bless the name of the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You've got to make up in your mind that what God has for me, it is for me. I might not have it right now, may not get it next week, you might try to stop me from getting it, but if God said it's mine, I want you to know after a while, I'm going to get what belongs to me. Sometimes God got to strip what you got so you don't depend on yourself. He got to take away from you so you understand how to depend on El Shaddai. 90.7 WTCC. Good morning. Welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan II. And as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. It is 4 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. I want to thank Mr. Kenneth Barnett for bringing us up until the 9 o'clock hour with The Promise. You can hear The Promise every Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., bringing you the best in gospel music. A good way to start out your Monday morning. A great way to start out your week. Well, fall is here in full swing. The leaves are turning colors and the weather is getting cooler and we got to kiss the summer goodbye. But hey, it's what happens. It's part of the seasons. Definitely if you're here in New England, where we get all 4 seasons, and even those who are in warmer weather like Florida and other places, they're dealing with hurricanes and flooding and all kinds of other stuff. So be safe out there, all of you. Listen, today I've got to continue this conversation on reparations. America owes black people, not only America, really, to tell you the truth. I mean, all over the world, people owe black folk, but we're talking specifically about America paying reparations to descendants of enslaved Africans here. Britain, the Brits have been very audacious in their commentary about whether Britain owes reparations for slavery and colonization and all of that kind of stuff. Just white folks all over the world are very arrogant about the role that they played in history regarding the subjugation and dehumanization of black people. But we're going to talk about it, and we'll continue to talk about it. It's a subject that is well worth the conversation. Do me a favor, if you are listening over 90.7 here in the Pioneer Valley, call a friend, tell somebody, text them, let them know Bishop is on the air right now and they need to get in on this conversation. If you're on social media, do me a favor right now while I'm talking to you. Like, share, subscribe, comment, tell somebody Bishop is on the air. Good morning to all of you. And rep your city, rep your town. Love to know where you're chiming in from. Rep your city, rep your town. Welcome my Facebookers, my Twitter followers, YouTubers. We're absent my Instagram audience. Instagram is playing games again. They got me restricted from going live again. And it's always over some foolishness. Now, y'all remember the last time Instagram had my account restricted from going live, it was because some white supremacist got in my comments and I typed, I kid you not, I promise you, this is exactly what I typed. Go away and the clown emoji. They said that comment was bullying and harassment. The white supremacist gets on talking racist vitriol. I respond, go away clown, with the emoji. And that was bullying and harassment, and they restricted me from going live for a month. This time, check it out. Some of you all have seen the video of the salesman, the solar salesman, who goes to the door of the black man and he says, hey, we do solar, and we were just going around asking the niggers. Oh, I mean neighbors. Yeah, that video that's on D.L. Hughley's page at about 500,000 views. That's on so many pages throughout Instagram. But on Bishop Swan's page, it violated their terms on hate speech. So I'm restricted from going live again because a video that is still up on Instagram on hundreds of pages, that's up all over Facebook. Who owns Instagram? Matter of fact, that's how crazy it is. It's on my Facebook page. But on my Instagram page, it violates the terms against hate speech. So they restrict. So, of course, they got my account basically marked, that we're going to restrict this guy as much as possible and probably eventually try to take my account from me because I'm speaking too much truth. So there's some racist white supremacist moderator at Instagram that has flagged my account and keeps restricting it over stupid stuff like a clown emoji and a video that's on everybody else's page. So my Instagram audience is not with us on today, but welcome to the rest of you who are here. I see you, Mattapan. I see Springdale, Maryland in the building. I see Chicago up in the building. I see Fairburn, Georgia in the building. Of course, we got Springfield, Massachusetts up in the building. We got Washington, D.C. in the spot. Who else we got up in the spot? Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from. Definitely want to hear from you on this morning. If you're in the Twitter space, definitely put in your request. I see my frat brother Charles Bazemore up in the building. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is up in the spot. All right, tell somebody Bishop is in here. I see you, Richmond, Virginia. Yes, good morning, Aunt Marion. Good morning, Brother Seymour. Good morning, everybody up in the spot. Let me get my Ferris Hill popping, get some encouragement up in here for you all. After a little bit of Ferris Hill, we're going to come right back and get right into our conversation. So like, share, tell somebody we're in the building right now. All right, don't stop, y'all.
The essence of life is growth, but the essence of growth is change. The being in the road would be the end of the road if you refuse to change.
Reach a little higher,
reach a little higher,
dig a little deeper,
dig a little deeper,
go a little further,
go a little further. Come on, come on, come on.
Reach a little higher,
come on, yeah.
Dig a little deeper,
dig a little deeper,
go a little further,
go a little further. Come on, but don't stop. The essence of life is growth, but the essence of growth is change. The being in the road will be the end of the road if you refuse to change. Your life will never change until you get disgusted with where you are. Whatever you don't hate is what you tolerate. You must learn from the past, plan for the future, and live for today. For it is your daily routine that determines your success or failure in life. It's the choices that you have made up until this point that will determine the rest of your life. So break the cycle that doing enough is simply good enough. You only get out what you put in, so don't settle for the crumbs when you can have the whole loaf. So push yourself beyond your limitations. Come on.
Reach a little higher,
reach a little higher,
dig a little deeper,
dig a little deeper,
go a little further.
Don't stop,
don't stop.
Come on,
don't
reach
stop.
a little higher,
reach a little higher,
dig a little deeper,
dig a little deeper,
go a little further,
go a little further.
Don't stop, don't stop,
don't stop.
So you gotta break the routine of trying to beat the system. Manipulators will always try to bypass the process for the quick progress. There are no shortcuts to success. There are no elevators to the top. You gotta take it one step at a time. You gotta break the routine of allowing others to get into your head to control who you are and where you're going. You see, when you're about the positive, you're gonna always have haters. But don't let your haters push you down, let your haters push you forward to the next level. So when people show you who they really are, don't perceive them to be something else that they're not. See, a zebra does not change his stripes. So you gotta keep pushing yourself to the next level. Yeah, there you go. Come on.
Dig a little deeper.
Come on. Yeah.
Go a little further.
Go a little further.
Don't stop.
Come on.
Don't stop.
Come on. Yeah.
Reach a little higher.
Reach a little higher.
Dig a little deeper.
Dig a little deeper.
Go a little further.
Go a little further. Come on. Come on. Come on. You got to understand that greatness is the nature that you were born out of. You'll never discover your greatness without hard work and dedication. Greatness says more about who you are and what you expect for yourself. And greatness will always attract greatness. Show me your friends and I'll show you the future. You're just a step away. You're just a step away. You're just a step away. Don't ever give up. Come on. You're just a step away. You're almost there. Come on. You gotta push yourself beyond your limitations. You see, there's no mountain too high, no valley too low. You can go where you wanna go. It's all in the power of your imagination. If you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. So stretch yourself. Take yourself to the next level. Come on, come on, come on. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Come on, come on, come on. Come on. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Come on, yeah. Come on. Come on. Blessings are coming your way. Go a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop until you get your dream. Don't stop. Get your dream. Until you get your dream. Come on.
Don't stop.
Don't stop until you get your dream. Don't stop. Get your dream. Come on. Yes. But don't stop. Come on. Come on. Come on. Go further, go. Come on. You gotta go further, go. You gotta go for the goal. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Don't stop. Yeah. What you make in a year, you gonna make in a month. And what you make in a month, you gonna make it a week. And what you make in a week, you gonna make it a day.
All right. Go get it crunk in a minute. Gotta play a little bit of my big sis, Rhonda Swan. This is I Like What I See. Tell somebody we're gonna get into this conversation on reparations. Let's get it.
In the mirror, and I like what I see. A strong, beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, stolen from, and hit. But it just made me stronger, and I refuse to quit. That's right. And though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to their level. Don't go down. I rose above that nonsense and made a liar of the devil. All right now. The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love, I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me and brought me out of darkness so that I could see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm a child of the King. Abundant love for me, he came to bring. Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.
All right, 90.7 WTCC. I think I got a workaround. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. Anybody ever tell y'all that? Where there's a will, there is a way. So I just figured out how I can still get on the gram live, even though my account is restricted. I can go live with somebody else. I can go live on my burner account and go live with myself and still be on the gram. So y'all can still go to the gram and check me out on the gram. That's what you get. Instagram. There. I'm still on. I love you too, Sharice. Yes. Tell a friend, tell somebody we're on the gram now. Good morning, Chicago. Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from, wherever you are. We definitely want to know. Let me get this number up here for those of you who are in radio land and want to call in. 413-337-1867. 413-337-1867. Good morning, everybody. Like, share, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. I see you, Brenda Ford. Glad to see you this morning. Hey, baby girl. Whitney, I see you this morning. Juanita Beam, Springfield is in the building. Chesapeake, Virginia is in the building. Richmond, Virginia is in the building. Yes. Where else y'all coming in from? Hey, respect to you as well. Respect to you as well. I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody. We see you're out of surgery. Sweet treats. I'm gonna just use your CM Sweets. I'm gonna use your Instagram name so everybody don't have to know that your government. I see Trenton, New Jersey in the building. Trenton, New Jersey is up in here. Who else is in the building? Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from. So listen. Let's first of all set the groundwork for this, because see, a lot of people are acting like the push for reparations is something that just started happening during the 2020, um, 2016, and 2020 presidential elections. Raleigh, North Carolina, good morning. No, we've got to understand there's a long standing idea of paying reparations to Black Americans for the cost of slavery, segregation, and other racist practices um, that have permeated our existence here in these yet to be United States of America. It's gotten a boost in recent years, but it has long been fought um, for over a century. So let me just state for the record, because one of the things that makes me uncomfortable is when we allow the old divide and conquer tactic that our open enemy has been playing for time immemorial to get the best of us when we play right into it. Um, and when we have people who have the same goals, same aim, same goals, who start fighting against each other and undermine their own efforts. No one owns, no one owns the stage when it comes to fighting for reparations. And we can't, as Black people, good morning, Clarksdale, Tennessee. We can't, as Black people, be getting territorial as if we own the fight for reparations, as if as like it's a shirt or a sweater or something. The more of us that galvanize around this issue, the better. Now we have to come to some fundamental agreements, um, but we still have to fight together. Um, um, and listen, brothers and sisters, we can't continue to fall prey. They bumped me off of the gram. I don't know why. Um, I guess one of the moderators was listening and said no, you can't you can't get on live with someone else either. So I guess they fixed that. So hey, anyway, so here's the deal. We got to stop fighting over who has the right to fight for reparations. We've got to cut that out. We all have a right to fight for reparations. Bottom line. And listen. Once again, the more of us that are fighting, the better. Good morning, caller. All right, the caller hung up. But anyway, 413-337-1867 is the number if you want to chime in on the conversation. So we have literally had groups that were advocating for reparations, attacking other Black people who were on their side, and we can't have that. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Bishop. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Didn't Haiti have to pay over $20 billion worth of reparation for abolishing slavery? Isn't that true?
I don't know about that. What I do know is Great Britain paid billions of dollars to slaveholders for abolishing slavery. Matter of fact, Great Britain took out a loan of about 50% of its gross national product in 1833, a loan they just finished paying off in 2016. So think about that for a minute. They took 180 some odd years. That's how much money they took out to pay people who own slaves for the
loss of their property. So it is okay to pay slave owners reparations, but it's a problem to pay those who were enslaved reparations. That is the craziest thing ever to me. You know,
So you're getting a rebate for the dehumanization of people.
right,
I can't believe that.
right. You're absolutely right, and that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. They um, literally paid the people for losing property.
Yeah.
And just finished 6 years ago, just paid the loan off. And then these same Brits will stand up and talk all kinds of lip about why they shouldn't have to pay uh, um, Africans, black people in the Caribbean, people that they colonized, why they shouldn't have to pay that. But we paid the slaveholders.
But they send the royal family over to Africa to hug people
Yeah,
and give people money and help out with AIDS and help out with this and help out with that. But there's a bigger picture going on here that they're keeping swept under the carpet.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you for your time.
All right, appreciate it. I'm going to let some of you get in the Twitter space, but let me just at least set this up like this. So here's the thing. Some of you have heard HR 40. And HR 40 is not a bill that would pay black people reparations. Don't get it twisted. When you hear, I support HR 40, that's a very safe position for a politician to take, because HR 40 is a bill that would create a commission to study reparations, not to pay black people reparations, to study reparations. A commission whose goals and objectives would be threefold. One, to examine the role of the federal government and state governments in supporting the institution of slavery. Two, to review the different forms of discrimination in the public and private sectors against enslaved people who were freed and their descendants. And then thirdly, to document the negative effects of slavery on living black people and society. And then to turn that report in. It's a study. It is not legislation that says we're going to pay the descendants of enslaved Africans. Um, um, and so the argument against this in the dominant culture is that it's something wrong with forcing current generations to pay for policies that no living American was responsible for, and for black people who were never enslaved to get paid. Now, let me go back to the example I just gave the caller. 182 years it took Britain to pay off the loan to pay the families of slaveholders. 182 years. 9 generations. That means taxpayers in 2016 were paying for monies being paid to families that had slaves in 1830. Okay? So when you talk about the current generation paying for the sins of the past generation, that's how it works. That's how it works. We, the current taxpayers, are paying taxes that go to pay debts for things that America owes that we had nothing to do with. We had nothing to do with it. $18 trillion in post 9/11 wars. My son, who's 22 years old, his taxes go to help pay for some stuff that happened before he was born. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. But there's only a problem with it when it comes to talking about reparations. Um, reparations for black people. Then what they want to say is the Union soldiers whose lives were lost in the Civil War were payment enough. They paid for the freedom of enslaved black people. Same thing the Britons say about the Royal Navy risking their lives to free the slaves. Is payment enough? But that's a wrong view. You know, if a mugger beats you up and causes serious injury, you would hardly think that it was sufficient for them just to stop. Matter of fact, and that's the caucasity of white folk. Is you ought to be happy that we stopped. We abolished slavery. Whoop de doggone do. You know, so if I'm beating you upside the head with a hammer and then I stop, how crazy is it for me to say, you know what, I could have kept on hitting you until I killed you. You ought to be grateful to me for stopping. That's basically what white folks are saying to us. You ought to be happy that we stopped beating you upside the head. Now, we don't have to compensate you for your permanent injuries. We don't have to compensate you for brain damage or the fact that you may never walk again, or you know, or your nervous system being damaged, or the trauma that you face. We don't have to compensate you. You ought to just be happy and thank us that we stopped beating you upside the head. That's basically what they're saying to us. And that is in stark contradiction to basic American tort law. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but there may be some who are out there. All of the tort laws in America are based on the premise that you have to pay, you have to compensate people for their injury. And you have to protect them from further injury. That is the basic premise of tort law. Injury lawyers, insurance companies, and courts deal with this all the time in terms of redressing the harm that people have incurred from accidents, from corporate malfeasance, from other suffering that can be traced to parties that are liable. That American law is based on that, except when it comes to all of the injury and the damage that America did to black people through the institution of slavery, which involves some very obvious torts: assault and battery, rape, wrongful confinement for people's entire lives. I mean, come on, man. You gonna tell me damages shouldn't be collected from that? Compensation shouldn't be made from that? Of course it should. Of course. And it's not that America doesn't believe in reparations. It has paid reparations. America paid reparations to slaveholders, just like Britain did. It paid reparations to slaveholders for the loss of property. America paid reparations to various Native American tribes for the theft of their land. America paid reparations to Japanese Americans who were held in internment camps during World War II. Okay? Now check this. America paid reparations to Holocaust survivors, and the Holocaust didn't even happen in America. So America believes in paying reparations, just not to the descendants of enslaved black people. They believe in paying reparations to everybody else but us. Okay? To everybody but us. And as a matter of fact, America helped Holocaust survivors collect reparations from Germany and Austria. Yeah, it did. It assisted. Um, but not with the descendants of the Africans it enslaved. I mean, that's the craziest part of all of this. It's like when it comes to European Jews, we'll help them get reparations. When it comes to you Negroes who suffered right here in America, get over it. That's their position. It's crazy. 413-337-1867. If you're in the Twitter space, you want to chime in on the conversation, put your request in. And I mean, there are examples all over the world. The government of West Germany paid reparations to the state of Israel to compensate for the Holocaust. It seems like other folks can always make a good faith effort, but America can't seem to pull the trigger on it. America just refuses to acknowledge. And they've gotten to the point now where what they simply want to do is let's just ban conversations about what we did to Africans and their descendants altogether. We don't want it talked about in schools. We don't want systemic racism talked about in trainings in corporate America. We want to basically revise history and wipe the slate clean and not have to hear about it ever again. That's where we are in America. And the reality is, Bishop, how much should we pay? First of all, no amount is going to ever fully redress the horrors of slavery, Jim Crow, and everything that America did to subjugate and dehumanize and brutalize black people. Okay, but you ought to pay. You ought to pay. Just like when the Queen died, and we were demanding that they return stolen jewels and all that. The white folks always want people just to forget about their wrongs, but they don't ever forget. Greece to this day is still demanding the return of the Elgin marbles. They've been in British museums since 1816. But when we say give back the diamonds you stole from Africa, y'all tell us that we need to forget about it. Let me get Letitia Amore in the Twitter space. Letitia, you got the floor. You got the mic.
Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning.
Thank
How
you
are
for
you?
allowing me to speak.
Absolutely.
I consider myself a reparationist,
All right.
and I attempt to speak about reparations to my family members, at my church. I'm a member of the AME Church, to my sorority sisters,
Which sorority?
and to folks to my circle.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been one of the most challenging things to get my people to understand that without reparations, we will be a bottom caste. If those of us who have jobs, who are able to tithe and contribute to our community, cannot save Pookie, and I hate to use that word, but the bottom caste.
Right.
I live in Southern California, and I see, and you know this as well, the homeless folks in California and in major cities around this country are us. So my question to you, Bishop, is I know that we have opposition from white folk, from Asians, even Native Americans. But how do we overcome the inability of our own people to see that we have a right to be made whole and that we all need to get on board with this fight for reparations, even those of us who believe that we have made it? So that's my question, Bishop.
Yeah, and it's a good question. Can I ask you what sorority you're in?
Yes, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Okay, had a feeling. But yeah, it's a great question because and even a lot of those among us who will say, okay, I'll give you your old reparations. Then they'll start talking about paying reparations in the form of they'll say stuff like, well, maybe we can get free health care, or maybe we can get this or that. And I'm like, well, how come everybody else can get cash? But when it comes to black people, our own people are saying we'll accept something else. Um, I understand that there are a lot of people who say, well, we can consider other forms of payment. I'm one who believes that we ought to get cash payments. We ought to get paid um, for the horrors that our people have gone through in this nation. But you're right. Just getting our people on board to understand the importance of being paid reparations and how far that will go in terms of the wealth gap and lifting folks who are in poverty and moving us forward. That's a deep conversation that we need to continue to have in all of our circles, and I appreciate you for having it with those in your circle. And the rest of y'all need to be having that conversation. The last people who should be out here talking against reparations should be black people. The last people who should be, I mean, come on now. Stop playing. Stop playing. Yes, we are old. Of course, you got the Jason Whitlocks and the other coons of the world that are out here, talking against it. But yeah, we just need to silence those folks and have a larger conversation among people of like mind regarding this particular issue. Let me get Marcel up in here. Brother Marcel.
How are you?
I'm good. You?
I'm doing well. I just want to speak quickly to what the last caller said. Luckily and fortunately, and it could be because I'm in South Carolina, which has such a deep history of slavery to the point where you can go to Charleston and see the fingerprints of our people who built the nation. The Black Codes, which really became Jim Crow and redlining and all the other stuff that we went through, started in South Carolina. I haven't found it to be difficult, like you said, or you actually said, I haven't found it difficult to convince our people. Most of our people know we're old by this nation. The thing is, like you said, you hit the nail on the head, is we have to make sure that our people really get the reparations we are due, which are things like direct monetary payments, land grants, business grants to bring back Black Wall Street, the return of the Freedmen's Bureau. And the way that happens is like what you're doing. So I just want to shout you out. We need more people like you who have good platforms who are using it to, first of all, shoot down the anti-black talking points. So if you are against reparations, then you are against black Americans. And you can't have it both ways. We need people like you to shut down these lies. One, reparations, free education, healthcare. Hell with that. Yeah, we need free education. We deserve free healthcare. I'm sorry to say hell. We did. Well, sorry to say it again. I'm sorry. We need free education. We need healthcare. But no, you're going to pay us direct monetary payments. You will compensate us for the stolen land. You will give us a free bill. Also, we need people to shut down this lie that reparations is somehow going to result in people's taxes increasing. When the American government has federally paid reparations many times and not once did our tax increase because the federal government does not run nor operate all the tax revenue. And last but not least, we need people like you who are using their platforms to call out the hypocrisy and double standards in this nation. So I want to thank you for that and say that people know we're old. We just have to make sure that the rules doesn't get pulled over our people's eyes. So thank you, Alan, and there. Take care.
All right, appreciate you, brother. Yeah, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. And the other part of that, when he was talking about shutting down the lies, is this. We've got to silence the voices of black people in the media who say crazy stuff like reparations is dead on arrival. That's not a winning argument. We don't need to be having that conversation because you got these coons that are out there that have been given platforms that are claiming that they're in support of reparations, but we don't need to have the conversation. Because what's important is that we just get more Democrats in office and, so on and so forth. And right now we don't have enough of them to have the conversation. So it's DOA. We don't need to talk about reparations. No, you need to shut up. You need to shut down every one of them. Straight up. Every one of them need to be, and y'all know who they are. Y'all know who they. If you ever seen these black folk talking against reparations and talking about how we don't need to be having that conversation right now, those are the ones you don't need to be listening to. All right, and some of them are y'all favorites. Okay, some of them are y'all favorites. Yeah. I ain't name calling, and not name calling today, but you know who they are. Let me get Miss Angela up in here. Miss Angela, you got the mic.
Good morning, Bishop Swan.
Good morning.
Thanks for holding the space and thanks for letting me speak. I just want to say that we need to shut down them saying that slavery was abolished in 1865 because that's not true.
Yeah.
My grandmother was born into slavery. She was born in 1912, and she worked inside a plantation up until the early 1930s when they moved to Ohio. Where I'm from now, Akron, Ohio, and the Underground Railroad came through here and stopped in Kentucky. So it's a very touching subject for me because I know we're owed reparations and for the things and the trauma that my grandmother went through. I also had a great uncle, which was my grandmother's brother, who was stolen from our family. And we never seen him or heard from him again and was forced back into slavery from the same owners that was supposed to have abolished it. So that's not true, and it's very sensitive to me. And I just wanted to land with this, that the HR 40 bill is another nothing murder.
Exactly.
And all it is a deflection. We know these white people know what they've done to us. That's why they're trying to erase our history. Mm-hmm. They know the atrocities and the trauma that we've lived with. You know what I mean? They know they owe us reparations. They just putting out bills just to shut us up, and it's another deflection for them to delay this reparation payments because they do not want that transfer of power, because they know once we get all that money, we will shut America down and we will run it like it's supposed to be ran. And I thank you. Love you all. Love, peace, and reparations.
All right. Thank you, sis. Absolutely. Absolutely. Friedman Media, let me get you in here. You got the mic, Friedman. Yes, sir. We are old and we ain't playing no games about it. Friedman, you got the mic. All right. I see your mic is unmuted, but I cannot hear you. All right, so let's get Friedman a chance to get it together. We've been demanding reparations for more than a century. They've been made in various forms since the end of the Civil War, but they've never been met by this government. It was in 1865 that Union Major General William Sherman ordered that lands confiscated from Confederate landowners be divided up into 40-acre portions and distributed to newly emancipated black families. That's where the 40 acres and the mule come from. Following Abraham Lincoln's assassination, the order granting 40 acres and a mule was rescinded by a racist president named Andrew Johnson, who was also a slave owner. Okay? And so the majority of the land that was confiscated from Union soldiers was returned to white landowners. After the Civil War, formerly enslaved men and women argued that their unpaid labor while they were in bondage entitled them to pensions. Of course, the federal government, when going for it, ignored the pension bills that were brought up in Congress to compensate freedmen. They denied land, they denied resources. But then, while they were doing that, they were creating new pathways for land ownership for white Americans. All right? When they passed the Homestead Act in 1862, it granted 160-acre plots to white families, but denied 40 acres to black families. Our people were supposedly emancipated, but received no assets, while large numbers of white families got substantial assets as a starting point for building wealth. White immigrants came here and got what formerly enslaved black people could not get. That's what America did. And continues to do through policy. Let's see if we get Friedman in here. All right, Friedman, let's give it a second chance.
Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Freeman family. Once again, and I'll be as brief as I can on this. Once again, I appreciate you holding spaces like this because, as Brother Marcel said, we do need folks with platforms like yours to be able to spread this message. I spoke in another one of your spaces, and I told you how I left organized religion about 9 years ago now, so 2013, because of the landscape at that point in the clergy. That was when prosperity preachers were really ramping up. And my actual pastor at the time ended up going on one of those Preachers of whatever shows.
Yeah,
he was on Preachers of Detroit, and it was crazy to me that he actually took the opportunity up after actually having a conversation with me, asking me would it be a good idea for someone to do that, and I told him no. And next week I knew he had signed the paperwork to do it. So it was really my exit time to get out of organized religion, because it wasn't really doing what I felt it should be doing for our people. And this is something here that anybody that's in a church, a black church, and their pastor is not speaking up on reparations or talking about restorative justice for American freedom, you need to walk away. Because they're not speaking up on it for two reasons. One, because they don't want you to take that time away from the church house. And two, any monies you spend outside the church house won't benefit him and his family. And I know all pastors are not like this. My uncle is a pastor, and I still say he's the purest man in the world. But one of the things that I've learned about preachers, they will do as much as you'll let them do. And if you buck, they'll stop and they'll listen. And if enough of you buck, they'll not only stop and listen, but they'll advocate. And I don't believe enough black churches out here have black pastors who are advocating for reparations.
Now let me piggyback on what you're saying, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. But I often tell people that the power is in the pew, because you can vote with your wallet and with your feet. And so if your pastor is not speaking a message or organizing efforts or having your church on an agenda of liberation, then you can let your voice be heard. If he won't listen to it directly, you can speak with your wallet and you can speak with your feet. So the power is still in the pews.
Absolutely. It's in the pews, and it's in the people in the pews. Because when you have churches out here with 500 members and they putting $20 in the coffer every weekend, they speaking with their money, and they speaking with their feet there. But what is that pastor taking that money and utilizing that money for? If he's not speaking for your liberation, I mean, and this is a church that he stood up in this congregation one morning and told them that his benevolent closet was empty, that there was no benevolent closet. So there was no food for the needy. And you have people giving food weekly, monthly, yearly. And he said that there was no food. So people went out specifically and bought canned goods so they could fill up the benevolent closet. And like I said, I saw the writing on the wall a little bit sooner, but I'm glad I got out. But for you, I know other people want to speak. I appreciate you speaking as candidly as you do, because you can fake the funk like a lot of them do, just to get your views, just to get your follows, just to get people coming your way. But I believe you're real in this space, and we just need more of you, and we respect you. And I'll land there. Good one.
Thank you, brother. I've got to transition off of the radio, off of WTCC, and move into the after show. Those of you who are on WTCC and want to continue on Justice, jump on social media, jump on YouTube, jump on Facebook. We're going to close down the Twitter space because that was about talking about reparations. And our Instagram, but we'll still be on Facebook and YouTube if you want to join us there and continue the conversation. I want to remind you of the Greater Springfield NAACP Freedom Fund banquet that will be taking place on October 27th. The one and only Bishop Vashti McKenzie is our keynote speaker, 6 p.m. at the Sheraton. You see the link there. Get your tickets, bit.ly/104 Freedom Fund, bit.ly/104 Freedom Fund. You don't want to miss this event. If you're looking for a place to worship, check us out at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ, 35 Alden Street, Sunday, 11 o'clock a.m. Prayer, praise, and preaching. We're building better tomorrows by changing lives today. I'm sorry, y'all, in the Twitter space. Wish we had more time. We're going to be back with you on Friday on the Black Love Experience. So check us out on Friday. So for those of you in Radio Land, I'm out. Those of you on social media, give me a minute. We'll be right back with Justice and Flow. Until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you, and so do I. All right.
morning. Good morning. My dear voices.
We're back. We are back. Good morning, everybody. FBA goddess. All of you all. Cut the check. Yes. Yes.
Hey,
All right.
nephew. Good morning, daughter. Good morning, Wit. Hey, y'all. I'm back. Did y'all miss me? I'm back.
All right. And, we are back in Justice and Flow, transitioning from the spoken word where we were having a conversation about reparations, America owing us. Um, but what's happening?
Ain't nothing much, just trying to find the happy in every morning that I wake up. Um, you know, yeah, I made a commitment, to for the rest of my life to be the best of my life. So every morning when I wake up, it's a good day.
All
It's a
right.
good day.
All right.
Good morning, Miss Brenda. Good morning, everybody. I missed y'all, but as y'all know, when Bishop is unavailable, that makes me unavailable because I don't know how to work the equipment. I've never been trained, but maybe one day I will, or something else will happen. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. Um, I do need to let the audience know that we did have a scheduled guest for today. We actually was gonna bring back Queen Anna Muhammad. She was gonna be with us today. Unfortunately, something came up, so we had to reschedule. So Queen Anna Muhammad won't be able to be back with us until the Monday. I think it's the 17th or the 18th, somewhere around there. So she won't be able to be back with us until that Monday. Next Monday, Latonia Monroe Naylor will be with us from Parent Villages with some special announcements. Also, school committee member with some information. So I'm really excited to bring her here to the show on next week. Today, well, Bishop, if you want to, it's up to you. If you want to continue some conversation that you were having in your earlier show, but there are a couple of things that I certainly want to talk about in lieu of Queen Anna Muhammad's rescheduling on today. But that's up to you how you want to work it, how you want to run it. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be back for another episode of Justice and Flow. I do want to be a little transparent if I can with the audience. Um, I have been feeling a little discouraged about Justice and Flow. Wasn't sure if y'all was continuing to kind of feel the show or feel me as a co-host, or whatever the case may be. So I was definitely gonna ask if this was a show that was serving you in some kind of way, whether it be enlightenment, empowerment, or inspiration. Certainly, that's my prayer. But I just wasn't sure if that was still happening because I don't get as much feedback as I used to when Bishop and I first started doing this. I don't know where Bishop went. I don't know if I'm doing the show by myself today or not. But nevertheless,
I'm here. I'm just off camera.
okay, so that was a question that I was going to pose today. But there are some more pressing issues some more pressing topics, actually. I don't want to say issues that I also wanted to express today. But Bishop, like I said, it's up to you how you wanted to run the show today with our guests not being able to be with us today, having to reschedule.
Um, well, I mean, I'm more than willing to continue the conversation that we were having. I was kind of going through a methodical um, process of education in terms of the history of our people seeking reparations and being rebutted by this government and its history of providing compensation to other groups, um, while it consistently rejects any notion that it should pay for its sins of slavery and degradation for black people. Um,
I kind of heard a comment, and I know sometimes, we kind of get in the heat of the moment, and we make, comments certainly while we're conversing about a passionate topic like this. But I heard, just because they stopped beating us upside our head. When did they stop beating us upside our head?
well, that
When,
was
when,
it wasn't that they have, but this is the analogy was when white folks say we ought to, they say we fought a whole war to free the slave, and X number of Union soldiers gave their lives. That should be payment enough. Well, my thing is abolishing,
payment enough.
so-called abolishing slavery, which you started. So, so the analogy is, if I'm beating you upside the head and I stop, it's crazy for me to say you ought to be grateful to me because if I kept beating you upside the head, I could have killed you.
Well,
But,
first of all, they never stopped beating us upside the head.
but I stopped. So you ought to be grateful, that I stopped. To me that's the same argument as we could have kept you as slaves, but we didn't. So you ought to be grateful to us. Um, it's crazy. It's like a rapist saying, well, I stopped raping you, so you should be happy and forget about it, and forget about the damage. Forget about all of the damage and trauma that it caused. Um, I should not have to play any role in trying to make you whole for the damage I did to you. You ought to just be happy that I stopped.
This is, it's very difficult actually to unpack the psychology behind all of this trauma, right? But one of the things that one of the positions I find myself in often as a therapist is kind of trying to explain the process of forgiveness, right? And a lot of people are stagnant in their healing because they have this expectation of their violators, right? And in this case, it would be our oppressors and our colonizers, right? To somehow all of a sudden be human or respect our humanity in some way to where they come back and apologize. And I have to kind of walk people through the process pretty often of how are you gonna move forward? What will it take for you to continue to move forward without the apology and without the acknowledgement of being violated and being hurt, by the one who did so to you. And so our answer to that as Black people is certainly fighting and advocating for what is just and for what is right. Because in actuality, you can't pay us back for what you did to us and our ancestors. matters. I mean, that's
No,
just
that's incalculable.
yeah, exactly,
You know,
exactly.
that,
And,
that,
and
you
this is
cannot,
right.
yeah, you
So
can't
it's
calculate
not
the,
enough money and resources, in the world. And neither can you gain enough money and resources to pay us back, for what, you did to us as black people, right? But my thing is they didn't come to the conclusion on their own. In other words, they didn't fight to free black people. They didn't
oh,
decide
oh,
they decide let's fight this war to free black people. That was not what happened. And
the,
they also did not decide let's put an end to slavery. That's not what happened.
the southern states were threatening to secede from the Union. Abe Lincoln wanted to keep the Union together. Abe Lincoln said if he could keep the Union together without freeing one slave, if he could keep the Union together and keep black people in bondage, he would do so. Um,
Exactly.
that came from, so for y'all who think Abe Lincoln is a hero, Abe Lincoln didn't have no love for black people.
No,
Lincoln was a president who
no.
knew that it would go down in history if they successfully seceded from the Union under his watch. He would be marked historically forever. And so they waged that war to keep those southern states as part of the Union. Um, that's the reality of what happened. When white folks do a retelling of history, um, they try to pretend that altruistic white Union soldiers' sole purpose for fighting in the Civil War was because they were anti-slavery, and that's not the reality of it. And what happened in America, in the North and the South, after tells the entire tale. Once again, you know, when as soon as Andrew Johnson got in office, he rescinded the 40 acres and a mule. That you niggas ain't getting nothing. Um, Rescinded that. Um, they started giving land grants and monies for white immigrants to get a leg up in America, but freedmen were getting nothing. Black families who had been emancipated were still working on the same plantations that they were supposedly freed from, because that's the only way they could feed their families, was to stay enslaved to the same white folks who owned them. That's where you get sharecropping from. Basically, the black folks
You
still
you
still
Nobody needs to
on those,
educate me on sharecroppers because I know that very well. My grandparents were
those
sharecroppers
same,
on both sides.
yeah, still been on those same plantations. You know, and then when you even when you fast forward another 60 years, you got the terrorism and the lynching, the legal segregation, housing restrictions in the 1930s and the 1940s. They kept denying black Americans opportunities to build wealth under newly developed federal programs that benefited white families and communities. So when people talk about handouts, entitlements, all that kind of stuff, by far and large, it was white people. First of all, it was white folks who these federal programs were created for. They didn't create you.
All of them,
You,
including the GI Bill,
you after World War One, after the stock market crashed, all of that stuff happened in 1929, and the GI Bill came out in the 1930s. Do you think in the 1930s they were thinking about benefiting black folk? Under the GI Bill, mortgage and school tuition benefits extended um, only to white soldiers. Okay, They didn't benefit black soldiers who had served in the military. Those were all for white folks. All of these programs were for them. Farm workers, Social Security legislation, all of that stuff was to help white people. So it kind of it makes my blood boil when when you hear crazy white folks say, "We don't owe you reparations. We gave you welfare." No, it was your women who were benefiting from welfare. White
Still,
women who
still,
had no babies that
yeah,
you didn't take care of. They are the primary beneficiaries of welfare.
not
Not
only welfare but housing, Section 8, all of that, all of that. We just been sold a bill of goods, and it's been marketed in such a way to where we believe and think that the majority of benefactors from welfare or whatever are black folks, and but that's not the case.
see here and see people try to limit reparations. And shout out to FBA goddess who was telling us how they ran Carolyn Bryant out of North Carolina. This week, Carolyn Bryant is the white woman who lied on Emmett Till, um, and then perjured herself on the stand to save her husband and his brother from being convicted in Emmett Till's murder. She's still alive. She admitted that she did this, and they still won't arrest her. Um, so this is an example of white privilege. Um, anyway, what I was saying is people try to limit as if slavery is the only cause for reparations. Now, slavery might be where the denials of wealth and equal rights began, but it's the cumulative effects of both slavery and systematic federal denials of opportunity that followed slavery and that continue to impact the descendants of enslaved people into the present. Those are the reasons why we call for reparations. It ain't just about slavery. What about lynching? What about segregation? What about Jim Crow? What about the denial of our voting rights? What about substandard housing? What about poor schools? What about all of these things? What about the extrajudicial murder that occurs today on the streets of our city with black folk? All of these are cumulative reasons why we are owed, because America's systemic racism did not just affect our foreparents that were on the plantation, it affects our people to this day.
Well, it's very simple for me. It's not even, I don't even debate the fact that we're old. I mean, that's just the reality. That's just the case. It's just that simple. But I do look at it like America needs to understand it's just like restitution. The reason why you have someone who has cause injury or harm or certainly stolen, taken, or whatever, something from somebody, and they did it, by force, by violation, they committed a crime, and so you not only, have to pay for that, but restitution is you got to make that person whole again.
Mhm.
And so like I said, and like we know, right, it's impossible for them to make us whole again. But that doesn't mean that they shouldn't acknowledge it and try, right? And so reparations to me is the acknowledgement from America of what they did to black people, and the atrocities that have been served upon black people, what they continue to do actually on the backs of black people, and so the acknowledgement of that, repenting from it, so that means to stop and turn away, right, never to do it again, and then trying to make us whole, And so you do that through many different ways of reparations. Like I said, it can be cutting a check. That's one way. That's one way.
You way.
Taxes. It can be through education. It can be through a home ownership. It can just
See, I hear all of that, and
all
and,
of
and,
all
and people make those arguments.
of it.
I
All of
I am a proponent for cash payments to black people, and let me tell you why.
it.
Uh, let me tell you why I'm a proponent for cash payments, because here's the bottom line: if you owe me, if you owe me $1,000, you don't shouldn't get to tell me what form you're going to pay it to me. You shouldn't get the right to say, I know I owe you $1,000. What I'm gonna pay you for the next 10 months.
But
Or,
it's so much because it's not just money that they owe us. It's
or,
not just money that they owe us. So it's
I'm,
education, it's land, it's property,
or
it's
I'm gonna buy you groceries. I'm gonna buy you groceries over the next 2 months. You should not get to tell me how you're going to compensate me for what you owe me. I should be the one who decides what I do with what my compensation is. And so all these people are talking about, well, if you give black people money, all they're going to do with it is this. It ain't your business what
no,
they do with their
I,
money.
I'm not getting into that. That's not even. I'm not wasting my breath on a conversation like that. And that's not what I said. What I'm saying is there's many different ways and many different forms of receiving reparations. So like I said, I heard somebody say, which I think is a great idea. Certainly, no taxes. If you're black, no taxes. If you're black, you get so much land ownership. If you're black, think about all the land, all the companies that were burned down, just all of that not only happened to us. So it's more than just slavery too. What about our Black Wall Street, being burnt down, and it just wasn't in Oklahoma City. It was across the country. There were Black Wall Streets in many other cities and towns that have been developed. Throughout the country when Black folk were freed, essentially freed, and they started building their own economies and cities and towns and this, that, and the other, and then they were burnt down and destroyed. You name it. I mean, like I said, it's endless amounts of monies owed to us. So it got to be much bigger than just a check, a one-time check. It got to be much bigger than that. It got to go for generations, and it got to go through many multiple streams of resources as well. So yeah. So I'm in total agreement that we're old, but I also think that it needs to come through multiple streams, to also um help us, make sure that these resources are passed to the next generation, and the next generation we're setting them up. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
America has to get to a point where it stops giving lip service, and it's not just America. Here's the other thing: black people got to
Well,
get to a
I
point.
really got a problem
Where,
with that.
black people got to get to a point where they stop helping with the false narratives,
Right.
and we got to stop with the, well, we're not going to ever get reparations, so just leave that alone. That's dead on arrival. Blah 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 blah. When you get your Roland Martins and your other talking heads who start talking like this, those are the people that are undermining. In my opinion, they're undermining the movement. When people, when our open enemy can say, "Look, I got your perceived credible black media figures out here agreeing with us that this is not a conversation we should be having." I think those people need to be called to the carpet for undermining the black family.
Well, I agree with that, but you know what? I also know about these people, and I won't call any names. You feel free to do so, but I do know this, that when we win this fight, and I do believe that we're gonna eventually win this fight in my lifetime. I think that we're gonna win this fight. When we win this fight, if they still alive, they're gonna be trying to be the first people in line to get that check. You
Yeah,
know, or
Rolling
whatever.
the first one up there. Let me get my.
No, I'm not. You know.
Let me get my.
Yeah, they're gonna be the first ones in line to try to, benefit. I'm black. I'm a descendant of slaves. My, whatever.
But
They be the
the
first
other
ones.
thing is, there are a lot of immigrants and descendants of immigrants, people who came from the Caribbean and Africa and other parts, who are not descendants of Africans that were enslaved in America, who are also talking against reparations. Um,
Also talk against black people in general.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
surprising at all. I mean, babe, we talk about this all the time. We're certainly living it, and we've been living it a long time. I think now it's just a little bit more uh it's a little bit more vocal, it's a little bit more overt. This anti-blackness, and this anti-blackness not only exists in other groups, other cultural groups, white groups, Hispanic groups, and so on and so forth, but there's some anti-blackness certainly within us, within our own race of people. It's really sad, it's very hurtful. It's extremely traumatizing. It's re-traumatizing when your own has such vitriol and self-hatred that we have to deal with, that we have to try to, like I said, deal with, and move on. It's like everybody's not gonna go. Some we gotta leave behind. Everybody's not gonna go. It's just like I guess Harriet Tubman. I would have freed a whole lot more if they had known they were slaves. It's a lot of black people don't know they black.
Mhm.
It's a lot of black people in this country that don't know they black, and they are very comfortable just in their minds being close to whiteness. If they live in a white neighborhood, if they work at a white institution, or whatever, in their minds they good. Um, Being in close proximity to whiteness. I mean, that's their satisfaction. Or whatever. That's their satisfaction if they believe that white folks accept them. They don't understand that white folks that are racist, and I do understand that all white people are not racist. I do understand that. However, for you not to be racist, or for white people not to have fallen or gotten caught up in this whiteness, right? This construct of whiteness, they had to do some work to keep from being that way. They In this country, if you are born and raised in this country and you white, and you're not racist, you did some work. And I mean, I applaud you. And I admire you. But you did some work. Certainly, not to be a racist in this country. But nevertheless, that is the most hurtful um, anti-blackness phenomenon that exists, is when it comes from black people who don't know they black.
Well, and then the crazy narrative, um, and I guess like the change in CNN has done some changes, and um, Don Lemon once upon a time would be one of the main ones who would push back against certain things. And when he was on with that British lady who started talking that nonsense about how the British people, the folks who were descendants of those in the British Royal Navy, are owed reparations um, for um, for helping to free uh, slaves, and that we ought to go get reparations from Africans and not from Britain. And the fact that he didn't push back, I was shocked by that because I
Well,
wasn't
I
used.
was shocked because I mean Don Lemon is like a whole lot of folks. He's like, I'm not finna mess up my check.
Yeah, well, apparently
You
the
know,
the
I'm
new
not finna
status
mess up
quo,
my check.
the new status quo at CNN. But see, he was on with Charlemagne the God, and Charlemagne asked him, about the new direction of CNN, and he said if he wasn't allowed to speak truth to power,
Well, this is coming when, there's
like he
all of
always
this wealth, and you hear about it comes as England is
oh,
facing rising cost of living, a living crisis, and austerity.
pause that. So he said if he wasn't able to speak truth to power, like he always was, he would walk. He would leave CNN, and they said, "Okay, Don,
Always spoke truth to power. I don't know about
right,
you
right."
know.
So they took Don off of the night show, prime time at
Yeah,
night,
he got demoted.
put him
Somebody just said that in the chat.
put him on the day show, and basically told him stop all this partisan stuff. And Don said, "You know what? If I walk, it's going to be hard to go find. It's one thing if you working at Popeyes and you don't like the conditions, you can walk away from Popeyes and go get a job at Burger King. Pretty much make the same thing. You can't walk away from $8 million a year at CNN and just walk to the corner.
Listen, let's be real. Let's be real.
Yeah,
That would be a hard
yeah.
position for most people to be in. That would be a hard position for most folks to
Yeah,
be in.
so Don said, yeah, I'm gonna have to bite the bullet on this one. But I want to play this because I want you to hear the crazy arguments that these white folk have
I already heard it. Yeah.
about reparations. Well, I'm gonna play it again for the audience about reparations.
Budget cuts and so on. And then you have those who are asking for reparations for colonialism, and they're wondering, $100 billion, $24 billion here and there, 500 million there. Some people want to be paid back, and members of the public are wondering, why are we suffering when you have all of this vast wealth? Those are legitimate concerns.
Well, I think you're right about reparations in terms of if people want it, though, what they need to do is you always need to go back to the beginning of the supply chain. Where was the beginning of the supply chain? That was in Africa, and when across the entire world, when slavery was taking place, which was the first nation in the world that abolished slavery? First nation in the world to abolish it. It was started by William Wilberforce, was the British. In Great Britain, they abolished slavery. 2,000 naval men died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why? Because the African kings were rounding up their own people. They had them on cages, waiting in the beaches. No one was running into Africa to get them. And I think you're totally right. If reparations need to be paid, we need to go right back to the beginning of that supply chain and say, who was rounding up their own people and having them handcuffed in cages? Absolutely, that's where they should start. And maybe, I don't know, the descendants of those families where they died in the high seas trying to stop the slavery, those families.
Yeah, so the families of of the white folks, they ought to get reparations. Now listen to this clown here.
Monday night, a white woman tried to slap some sense into CNN hostess Don Lemon. She took him to school on the whole notion that ancestors of black slaves are owed reparations. Reparations are an entitlement. They're rooted in the desire to be compensated for the oppression suffered by others. Entitlement handicaps the mind and undermines productivity. America does not owe me. I owe her. I owe my ancestors. The same goes for Don Lemon and everyone else.
All right, that's Jason Whitlock, and I guess we've kind of grown accustomed to the cooning of Jason Whitlock.
I don't know neither one of those people, but I mean, the I don't. I also don't like kind of promoting that ignorance either. So I mean, although I have viewed it and heard it for myself, I hope that people stop kind of replaying it because unfortunately, people will hear it and believe it. And so, you got to be really careful, with that. But I was just going to say that she called Africa a country.
Yeah, well, she's ignorant.
She called Africa a country, and she said, she not only did she call Africa a country, but she said that all the kings, throughout the continent of Africa, were getting together and enslaving their people. It was a few different things going on, and the whole continent of Africa were not participating in the slave trade like that. There were a couple of tribes that got involved in that, but that was because it was infighting, there.
Well, not only that, there are a number of what they did call at that time kingdoms and tribes that were being colonized by the British at the same time. So while you're being colonized and somebody got a gun to your head saying somebody got a gun to your head telling you to round up people, what you gonna do?
They was trading, products.
Story.
And they got to the point to where they started to certainly trade people, but in the very beginning, they did not know that this was chattel slavery. They thought it was indentured servitude, like what they knew and like what they were accustomed to. So work a time period or whatever the case may be, and then be released. As a matter of fact, there's documents that show that some people thought that they would be able to come back. But of course, we know that we lost more, on the voyage than that survived, to reach land. So I mean, it was horrific. The whole process was just horrific. So, no, it's a whole lot more nuances, to that than it being a simple answer like that. Go back to the African kings. No, what were you doing in Africa in the first place?
Well, first of all, Britain
You were there colonizing.
Britain.
It's a typical colonial answer.
They personally transported on British naval ships 3.5 million Africans. They were responsible.
More than that. That's how many made it.
No, I'm not saying that's how many that made it. Yeah. More than that made it. I'm saying Britain itself on its ship.
It was more than that they tried to put on the ships to transport. More died than that made it.
Hey, I know that. Let me just finish what I'm saying. I'm saying the country of Britain itself. I'm not talking about all of the whole transatlantic slave trade. I'm talking about Britain itself personally transported on British ships 3.5 million Africans.
What are you saying, babe? What are you saying? 3.5 million made it, or 3.5 million?
Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying 3.5 million made it. I'm saying Britain as a country. There were more countries involved in the transatlantic slave trade than Britain. I'm saying Britain as a country personally transported on its ships 3.5 million Africans. It was responsible for the transportation in the transatlantic slave trade of over 12 million Africans to the Caribbean and to the Americas. I'm not counting France and other nations that were involved in the slave trade. I'm talking about personally what Britain did. And then on top of that, Britain colonized many African nations. Matter of fact, it colonized over 35% of the known world, which is the reason why uh, they had the saying, the sun never goes down on British soil, because they colonized so many people on various continents across the world. So I'm talking about just what that one country did. And for that woman to have the audacity to say, we were the first to abolish slavery in 1833. First of all, that's a misnomer. The first nation to abolish slavery was Haiti, and that's because of the Haitian Revolt. When enslaved black people rose up against their slavers and defeated them, and freed themselves in 1804. That was the first nation that abolished slavery, long before Britain decided to do it in 1833. And the only reason Britain decided to stop the slave trade was because it figured out we can enslave these people in their own nations by colonizing them. So all of the stuff she was talking about was completely disingenuous. And that one nation was responsible for the deaths of over 56 million Africans and Indians and people across the globe. Just Britain alone. So when you talk about the overall transatlantic slave trade, of course there were many more because other nations were involved in it. But I'm talking specifically what Britain did. Yep, Haiti is paying for its revolution to this day. Imagine that, fighting a revolution to free your people and then having to pay the French for it. That was another nation that was heavily involved in the transatlantic slave trade. Um, France and other places. While I got you guys here, let me remind you of the NAACP Freedom Fund happening on October 27th, 6 o'clock. I think I put it in the chat somewhere, where you can get your tickets. Matter of fact, you ought to just go on and get them right now. bit.ly/104 Freedom Fund. Put it in there one more again. There it is. Click the link. Go and get your ticket. You want to be a part of it, for sure.
So we have 12 minutes left in today's show. So I thought it would be appropriate to bring a couple of announcements to our listeners. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. And I certainly have read your encouraging words. So thank you for that as well. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody for sticking with us and staying with us. But it's a few things that I wanted to bring to your attention today before we leave today. Good topic today, Bishop. As usual, we get pretty passionate when we're talking about our people and the state of our people. And we learn a lot, also through our listeners. So I really appreciate the feedback from our listeners. I'm just saying kudos to everybody who's submitting comments right now. But I wanted to let everybody know that we've lost some people dear to us, and their family members are very dear to us. So, we're sending our condolences and we're sending out our love and our prayers to our sister Zeta Govan at the loss of her son Dean. We're also sending out much love and prayers and condolences to our brother-in-law Mike Malone and his sister Mishi at the loss of their dear mother, Miss Linda, who was like a surrogate grandmother to our children. She had her own daycare business for a number of years, and she even, she had some time, helping us with our children for a time. But like I said, you're just part of the family. Mike and Frida have been married a long time, so we're really praying for them at this time.
A month after us.
I know how. Yeah, they got married a month after us, right? So they've been married 31 years as well. And anyway, so she's been a part of the family a long time, and so we've lost another family member, and she was just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful person. She was always very kind to me, always very generous to me. And so we've lost her, and then we've also lost a little sister, Irene Burton, the wife of our brother Stephen Burton, and he just lost his mother a few months back. So he's lost his mother and now his wife, and so we are sending out our prayers, our condolences, and all of the love that we can conjure up, to these families that are grieving right now the loss of their loved one. Um, so I wanted to say that. Bishop, did you want to add anything to that?
No, just that we, offer our prayers, our condolences, our support to those families, and um, those who are going through periods of bereavement and sorrow
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. And also remember, though I know because of politics, you haven't heard much about the pandemic. You don't have the daily briefings anymore. You don't have a consistent barrage of information being thrown at you about the pandemic. But 350,000 people were hospitalized last week with COVID-19. So this isn't over with, you all. You all need to understand it's not over with. People are still being hospitalized. I was on the phone with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Carl King out of Chicago. I was in Chicago and was trying to catch up to him. But he was at the hospital um, because his mother and father had COVID and were hospitalized. Matter of fact, I got to call and check on them today because they're both in their 90s. But they were hospitalized with COVID. And so it's still out there, y'all. So I know we kind of have gotten willy nilly and we've stopped wearing masks, and we're having large gatherings. Part of the reason why we've limited our gathering in the NAACP Freedom Fund to 150 is I didn't want to go back to this will be our first in person since 2019. I didn't want to go back to having 400 or 500 people in one room, um, you know, pretending that this thing is completely over. So I limited the number that we could have in person so we could spread out and then do the rest virtually because we're still in this pandemic, y'all. It's not over. Just because they're not talking about it because midterm elections are here and they don't want the pandemic to affect their chances of whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that it's over, and we really need to be mindful of that. well.
FBA Goddess, yes, baby, we praying for you. I know that feeling too. I lost my mom 2 years ago, November 11th. It'd be 2 years. I lost her from COVID, and 6 months later, to the day, my brother died. My one and only brother died. So I know I'm familiar with that pain. I'm familiar with that grief as well. So I'm sending you all my love. I'm sending you, you know, may the peace of God rule in your heart. May He comfort you, and may He console you at this time. And I'm sorry to hear about your sister. I'm sorry to hear about your sister. So I want to turn just a little bit, and I see there's a lot of sisters that are listening, but listen, this is not just for the sisters. Because anytime a sister is lifted up and affirmed, brothers ought to be happy about that. Brothers ought to be really happy about that. The Woman King. If you have not seen The Woman King, I am asking you to get to that box office before they take it out and show your support for The Woman King. I am a black movie, I should say, a black movie connoisseur. I try to support, good black movies. This is definitely worth all the support I can conjure up. So I want to go back as many times as I can, because more movies like this need to be made. And so the only way we send a message to Hollywood that we want to see more movies like this is by going to the box office and making it a multi-million-dollar or even $1 billion hit. And I know that black folks, we got that in our entertainment coffers, because that's what we do. Listen, black folk, we drive culture. So, black people, listen, I need for you to take your kids to see this movie. I need for you to go with your spouses. I need for you to take any and everyone that you care about and to go and see this movie. Like I said, I'm a movie connoisseur. My husband knows this. I love the chitlin circuit. I even, have written my own skits and plays or whatever. At one time,
Chitlins.
I used to, do that. But we not only, did the chitlin circuit, but I did. In other words, I said that to say, whatever kind of expression through the arts that black folk have, I support it and I love it. Right. So I love poetry. I love spoken word. I love movies. I love plays. I love, whatever. I certainly love music, the whole nine. But this movie is a must see. And not only is it a must see, when it comes out, you need to purchase it and put it in your archives. You need to have it for your archives. Listen, I'm 55 years old. This is true. This is a true statement that I'm about to make. I'm 55 years old. I believe I was 10 when Roots came out. I think I was around 10. I was in elementary school. I remember that. I remember being captivated to the TV. I didn't want to miss a moment of Roots. When the first episode was played, I was down on the floor like this, watching the series. When I went to school the next day, I'm from Texas. When I went to school the next day, we didn't have a whole lot of white teachers, but we was mad at the ones that we did have. We tore that school up. We were so mad as kids. And it happened all throughout the state. I think it probably happened all throughout the country. But I only heard about, black kids going to school the next day and just, in hysterics, we were falling apart. We were falling apart. After seeing the first episode of Roots, we were so angry. We were so upset. And so mad about, what happened to Kunta Kinte and all of that kind of stuff. I brought that up to say that emotionally, watching The Woman King at 55 years old created the same kind of emotional tornado within me. But it was all good energy. I never felt more affirmed after watching a movie. My favorite book of all times was The Color Purple, and when the movie came out, I made it my number one top movie. So it's been my number one movie for what, 25, 30 years now? 25, 30 years. It's been my top movie for 25, 30 years. The Woman King has taken over that slot. The Woman King has definitely taken over that slot. I'm getting even emotional just even telling you to go see the movie. It was just so many jewels and so many pearls, so many affirming sentiments and statements and words and relationships that was portrayed in this movie, that just made me feel like, God loved me this much. He loved me so much that when he decided to bring me here to this world, he made me a black woman. So this movie, I listen. Kudos. I don't follow celebrities. My husband know this. I don't follow celebrities. I'm not really into that, or whatever the case may be, or whatever. But if I ever get a chance to meet Viola Davis and her husband Julius Tennant, I'm definitely gonna tell them that this was divine. It was divinely ordered, and that this movie is life changing. It's transformative. It's not just entertaining. It's edifying. So I thank God for this movie. I literally thank God for a movie, y'all. So please go and see the movie. Go and support the movie while it's still at the theaters. It's really important to go and see it while it's still at the theaters, because that's what speaks to Hollywood. So I wanted to say that as well, Bishop. I know you haven't seen the movie yet, but yeah, I wanted to say that as well. I know it's after 11 o'clock. I will bring the other information that I have for you about my health journey, everybody. So I've been getting some really good feedback from people about talking to you about my health journey. I will tell you this, that I'm close to being 30 pounds down now. I'm close to being 30 pounds down. And I'm continuing to discipline myself. I'm continuing to learn better ways of eating. I'm continuing to certainly, learn the information necessary to also encourage other people to get on this health journey, reversing the curse with me. Because I want all of us to win. I want all of us to live. So thank you for letting me share that, Bishop.
All right, y'all. If you're looking for a place to worship, once again, check us out. Spring of Hope, 35 Alden Street, Springfield, 11 o'clock a.m. on Sunday. Remember the NAACP Freedom Fund. The link is in the chat. So please click that link and get your tickets. That's our visit to UMass. I forgot to talk about that a week or so ago when we went up to see the Five Blind Boys, or not the Five Blind Boys. Now it's just called the Blind Boys of Alabama. In the opening of their fine arts season. It was pretty cool. Um, listen, a lot of stuff going on in the city during this fall season. Remember, Halloween is coming up. Make sure your kids are safe. Okay, just don't be going out letting them eat any and everything. Matter of fact, just have a party for them or something. Just, have something at your church, or whatever, and be safe. All right, we getting ready to move out, transition out of here. Listen, remember once again, um, next week, well, this week on Friday, we'll be back with the Black Love Experience um, at 9 o'clock a.m. on WTCC. I think I streamed it over social media last week, and we'll probably try to do the same thing this week. So that'll be happening. And then on Monday, back at 9 o'clock with the spoken word, and then at the 10 o'clock with Justice and Flow. I got back to back Zooms at 11 and 12. I don't know why people, they know that, preachers and people who go to church, do stuff, try to take Monday off. And it seems like everybody decides that they want to schedule a meeting on Monday. So pastors council, the national church, all that stuff. So anyway, I got to go, y'all. We got to go. We got to go. Peace and blessings and love and all of that kind of stuff. To you, enjoy the rest of your day. All right? Until the next time you talk to us and we talk to you, always remember, God loves you, so do we.